Hello everybody and welcome here to another Kerfuffle showcase, and I am delighted to have the team from PropertyStream. We have Robin Arnold and Pernilla Twiddle. Hello to the pair of you.
Hello there, good to see you, Simon.
Hi. Animated, I like that. Sometimes I get a little bit of a sort of, but that was good. almost a salute there. Thank you, Robin. So that's great to do it. Guys, really pleased to have you on here today, especially as obviously I don't know at what stage digital hasn't been important, but websites even more so over the last year. We were talking off camera there about what just an insanely busy time it was for you. And I'm guessing that's the name of the game, isn't it? If somebody has if somebody has not been happy with their website previous to 2020, that was the year that was really going to shake them out of their apathy, wasn't it? In terms of looking at that and understanding they needed something more.
Yeah, I think the penny really dropped around sort of April last year, and we saw a massive change in our business, the amount of inquiries we had, and also, although we've had a steady flow of inquiries, it was people realising that actually we probably need to do a bit more, invest a bit more, and really get a brand across is so important, and just have a website that is as equal, if not more important, than a shop front. And it should be like your best, highest performing team member. That's the way you should see it, and you need to invest in it for those reasons, really. But I think although it's been tough the last sort of 5 years trying to sort of get that message across, but I think really about April last year, I think the penny really has dropped and things have changed for the better.
And I was going to say, I mean, I was going to say you were lucky. You weren't lucky at all because it was all hard work, but you had the ability to fall back on a portfolio of some absolutely fantastic agents. I won't steal the thunder because I know we're going to talk about a few of them in a bit more detail as we go through your presentation later on. But to be able to have that caliber of agents talking solidly about how you were able to help them step up to that next level is great, isn't it?
I think it's partly been luck, partly been hard work, but we worked with some really inspirational people over the last sort of 5 or 6 years since we've been in the property industry. We'll show a few examples of that in a mini presentation that we do, but I think we've really been blessed with some of the characters, really aspirational, forward-thinking people like Matt Nicole from Nicol & Co, and the original founders from UMove. They're a big inspiration for us, and still really good friends. And David Laycott sort of helped us with our business as a bit of a mentor since then, and even people like Mark Mayers is a good friend of ours. So it's a lot of people.
Brilliant agent, yeah.
Yeah, really good people. A good sort of group of clients, and we've been lucky enough to work with them.
So let's go back to the beginning then, guys, before we kick into the main bit. Just give us a bit of the background, how obviously people like to understand where you've come from, everything on that, both in terms of from your own personal backgrounds and the business itself.
Absolutely. So I've worked in some quite biggish sort of creative agencies over the years. I've been creative director of some biggish digital agencies and some biggish sort of branding agencies, and I've designed websites for some quite sort of big clients like Santander and Peugeot, and but I think it was around sort of 9 years ago we started our group company, which is 22 Group, and that's sort of based in Manchester, and we work in a whole variety of sectors with that, and that's always important. And anyone who's heard me sort of talking, doing my explanation of who I am, I've always said that that's a key part of who we are. The fact that we still work with charities, we still work with people in the finance sector, social housing, boutique hotels, and because we were able to take inspiration from these other sectors, and it's so important, even though probably around 60–70% of our business is with estate agents in the property sector. It's so important that we work with beyond that and we get fresh ideas from these other places, because I think it's easy to get a bit sort of fixed and narrow-minded if you're just doing the same thing day in, day out. So but yeah, that's my background. We sort of fell into the property industry around sort of 6 years ago, and that was when David and Glenn from UMove came knocking on the door, and we've never looked back, really.
And that point about becoming samey is a real issue, isn't it? Is for some website companies, and so having the ability to not get railroaded into a particular way of doing things because you're always on the lookout is a big benefit. I think the problem you get is a lot of the time you see agents doing, seeing that ability, and going to website companies outside of the industry precisely so that they aren't samey. But unfortunately, then you get the other side, the flip side of the coin, don't you? They because they have no experience, everything is reinvented, isn't it? The wheel is reinvented and everything else. So property feeds, property searches, everything else, and it just takes so long to get anywhere.
Do you want to talk about that, Vanilla? Because you've
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. Because I mean, so I've got I've worked in the last 8 years in the property industry, but prior to that, working in marketing across industry sectors really. And you're right, I've had lots of experience where we've dabbled with somebody outside the estate agency industry completely, and that has its merits, as you said, but it also created huge challenges because it's a very particular industry. It's probably one of the most complex estate agencies websites you can create. So I think that you have to have an element of understanding of those complex things like the search, and the feed, the property feed, but to be able to also work with other clients, the same team who are working on those sites, to then get insights from other industries. That's an absolute gem, I think.
Yeah, and I think that jumped out at me what you just said there. That's interesting that, you know, people are always underestimating this industry, aren't they? They always say we're terrible for adopting technology. We're waiting for this big disruptive tide and everything else. And you know, on the face of it, is the problem because it does look simple. You're just matching properties to people, and that's it. But the minutiae that goes into that, in terms of the complexity around searches, and then you know, does you only have to look at some of the car crash sites that have been done over the years, don't you, to see where people have gone wrong on that front.
No, exactly. And I think a good example really is you know, you find an IT manager, quite a techie person in another sector, in the travel industry or even the car industry, and you say, look, go and get your head around a property feed and try and connect this to this, and your two-way integrations and your lettings feeds, and see how you get on, and come back in a day's time and so let me know if you've got any questions, because it's complicated stuff, and that's
then you throw in an on the market early bird feed, and
exactly that. But it's so Panilla's right. They are probably one of the more complex websites out there, and certainly more complex than the average sort of portfolio website. So I think having some experience on those more complex aspects of it is well, ultimately it's going to mean the job's done quicker for less money, so you can concentrate on the important things like lead conversions and brand awareness. But also, I know we're repeating ourselves a bit here, it's so important that, you know, we don't just stop doing other things, and we're getting inspiration from other sectors. And we've got PropertyStream as well, and we're also doing a big sort of push at the moment with our 22 group brand to sort of Manchester businesses as well. We work with people from all over the world and estate agents in all parts of the country, but I don't think we've got enough clients from Manchester as well, which is you know, well, not my personal hometown, but where the office has always been. And so that's the real push, because it's such a cool place. Do you live in Manchester? Am I right?
Yeah, I'm just down the road from you, down in hip and happening Didsbury. Or
wow, amazing. It's such a cool place
when we're not being flooded. It's so is there any significance for the 22 group? Is there something clever I need to be aware of there? Or
it's really not very clever at all. You know, we started on 22 Lever Street, and I've always liked names in the Northern Quarter. I've always liked names that are numbers. There's nothing more to it than that.
Cool. No, that's fine. I just wanted. I thought if we were going to do the origin story properly, then we'd better find out on that level. Okay, guys. I think that gives us a really good idea, obviously, and that helps really understand from that point of view. Today, when I asked you what you wanted to talk about, you was talking about really how to build trust and become the chosen agent. I mean, I think that's what everybody would obviously would want to do. And we were going to kick off this on a 3-tier approach, weren't we? We were going to say what are the key ingredients for building trust with your brand? Number 2, what are the key ingredients for building trust with your website? And then for building trust with your marketing as well. I'm particularly interested how you've got kind of focused on that 3-point effect there. But should we kick off with the first one then, Robin? You mentioned your background was obviously from there. What are the key ingredients then for building trust with your brand, and why do you focus on it so?
Okay, no problem. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen. We'll just get a few slides up. Let's just give this a bit of a prompt. So
got those? Yeah, cool.
Yep. So this is an amazing stat. I sometimes wonder how on earth people do get these stats, but it's on Google, so it must be right. It must be someone must have come up with it somehow. But 42% of consumers can't discern which brands are trustworthy, and we do get this a lot. With clients, and it really, especially on a website more than anything, you've got around 6 seconds, and that time it used to be 8 when we first sort of came into the market. Now it's 6 seconds, and well, that's going to get less. You've got about 6 seconds to give people a reason to trust you, or else they're going to go and do whatever, go and have a beer, a cup of tea, or more likely go to a competitor. So you've got a really short time frame to give them a reason to trust you. And you know, we're big techies. We've built, you know, some of the most technologically advanced websites in the industry over the years, and you know, I'm a big believer in these sort of two-way integrations and all the integrations you can have, like Locrating and Dataloft, and these are all brilliant. But ultimately, you know, your website and your brand has to convey trust, or else someone's not going to buy from you. All these other bits of technology are almost the medium, and they're very, very clever. But ultimately, you know, we need to give people a reason to pick you over a competitor.
Can I just ask a question straight away then, Robin? If so, do you think sometimes that people, you know, lose that trust element by trying to be too clever with what they're doing with the website?
I think it's really easy, yeah, to try and be too clever, and I think sometimes you just need to have a workshop away from tech and just say, what are we all about? What's our brand personality? What makes us different? What is our sort of brand story? And does our website shout about that? Can people get who we are and what our personality is within 5 or 6 seconds? Because if not, you know, they're probably going to shoot off and have a look at a competitor. So I do think that is the case sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks.
I also think, can I just butt in there? I also think that's why we wanted to break it down to branding, website, and marketing, because there's so much noise and there's so much, everything is happening so quickly. So I think you're right, Simon. I think people have got the tendency to just go, oh, we need to do this now. We need to go there. We need to integrate with that. And that's great. But have they actually sat back and thought about, if we do that, is that consistent then in what we're doing offline and online and on our digital? So it's kind of bringing it together and kind of almost taking a bit of a step back and getting the foundations right, and then you'll get it right across all those 3 streams. And I think that's when you see businesses win.
Great, thank you. Great feedback.
Okay, so I think your story is always a really good place to start. So anyone sort of see me do presentations, I nearly always start with a story. And today I'm going to start with your story, Simon. Because we've only actually met twice. Once in our London office, very quickly, when Graham Locke was doing that interview, and Chris. So that was for like a couple of minutes, and I think I made you a cup of tea or something, and then the launch event. So we've only met a couple of times, but because of your brand story, I feel like I know you. I feel like you're my best friend. I literally feel like I've known you my whole life, and that is because of, you know, what you've done, where you've been. Am I right in thinking? I'm not a stalker, just to be clear. But you know, people have told me this information, or you've told me this information via social media and stuff. Did you grow up in the Middle East, or?
Yeah, I did. I was born in Kuwait. That explains my dusky looks, like all these holy men. I was born in Kuwait and I grew up in Abu Dhabi. That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't actually know for sure how I know that, but I do know that. It's not like you personally told me that.
I know, scary, isn't it? And,
yeah, and I know that I know that, you know, you've obviously had phenomenal success at Repeat, and so when I first sort of saw you, would have been on LinkedIn when someone at some stage, when we first came into the industry around 5 years ago, oh, you should check out Repeat and Simon, and you know, a really nice guy. So I had a look at you on LinkedIn, and I saw this image there, and I thought,
the Photoshop one.
Yeah. but then since then it's unravelled. I've seen a whole other side to you, and I'm on Facebook on Sunday late mornings, and I see you dancing around the front room, and I always chuckle, and you know I was like that one, because that's what we do in this garden office here. So I do, but I mean the serious point I'm getting to is this is your brand story. all these sort of, really cool, fun things that you can do and you can get away with are because you've had phenomenal success at Repeat, your background, people know you, and you built that story, and that is and really that's what companies should do. It's as important with people as it is with companies, and getting that story defined, because one thing that I say to people, and it's quite easy to forget, is right, what's that one thing that's different about you? Yeah. And that one thing is your story, because everyone's story is totally different. There's no two people in the entire world who have exactly the same story. So that's always a really good place to start when you're looking for a differentiator.
It absolutely is, isn't it? And it plays into EA Masters, obviously, where Peter managed to get Seth Godin, and obviously anyone in marketing knows the purple cow analogy there. And actually, agents themselves will quite often, in their more honest moments, talk about how they just struggle to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to see if they follow that identikit marketing thing that so many seem to just, to go down that approach.
Exactly, yeah. And agents will come to us and say, look, we're struggling to stand out. We know we're good at what we do, but ultimately we sell houses, and we follow very similar processes to our main competitors. And I always say, well, who are you? What is your story? Because that's the one thing that is very different. So in terms of my story, I've just briefly talked about this earlier on. So I worked as a consultant, creative director at some quite biggish agencies prior to starting 22 Group, and actually off the back of this, because I'd worked on the main corporate site for Santander with actually a really good developer called Jono. He was too busy. David and Glenn from UMove got referred to him. He was too busy. He knew that I'd do a good job of it, and so he referred them to me. And that was really our start in the property sector. So these two crazy guys came knocking on the door, and they said they wanted to build a brand around sheep. They wanted to build the most technologically advanced website in the industry. And we thought, what the heck, let's give it a go. We had no experience in the property sector whatsoever. And 3.5 years later, they sold it for 15 million. And we were lucky enough to have been a part of that journey, and lucky enough to have been part of closely worked with these guys, but then also the amazing team at the Property Franchise Group and UMove now. So then we learnt a lot from working with these guys, and really that got us into the property sector.
Well, they certainly knew how to stand out, didn't they? There was no blandness there.
That, yeah.
I only met the guys right at the end, actually, but that came through, and I think it is so important, because I'm not surprised at all what you said there at the beginning. What was it, the time you got on a website there, 8 seconds down to 6 seconds?
Yes. Yeah.
Reviews in general, text-based reviews, when I was looking into it, have decreased to almost a third of what they were 8 years ago. They're almost the size of a tweet. And again, probably that's not unsurprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
All around the world, we're seeing attention spans, just getting worse and worse and worse. And so to be able to seize that moment can never have been more crucial. Otherwise, that familiar bounce rate that people, a bluffer's guide as I have kind of to Google Analytics, I do understand the danger if you've got that at too high a level.
No, exactly. And although, it's one of those Marmite brands, it worked phenomenally well for these guys. Got them noticed. People liked how different it was. It was so fresh. And my wife did a lot of the illustrations, the sheep illustrations, and my business partner, Eddie. There was only sort of 3 of us at the time. He did a lot of the original sort of build on that first UMove website, which was really quite a complex website. And there wasn't like Purple Bricks that had millions and millions of pounds of funding. These guys didn't. So but it's and one of the things that Glenn was amazing at doing was just going around, not actually physically going around the world, but seeing what people are doing in other countries and other sectors, and what he used to call sweep and deploy, which is where you see an amazing idea that's been done in one sector, and you say, well, can we use this in the property sector? It's not been done by someone else. And that's what that first UMove website was particularly good at. Was just, it's one of the first websites to do the things like the booking into the booking diaries, and the 2-way integrations back with the CRM that they actually pretty much built themselves. And so yeah, it was we learnt a lot. They did a lot of testing as well. That's another thing that that we were able to pick up on was all the A/B testing that was done in terms of where should things be positioned, how many stages a form should have, and bits like that. And it was like gold dust for us. And during that process, I suppose we just thought, well, we actually really like the property sector. We like the people in it. I think it gets a bad name, but I think generally, agents for me are very sort of quite aspirational, ambitious types of people. They're entrepreneurs, and I always like that. So we haven't really looked back. So I think the next one for us is values. This is really important, and I think it's one of the things we've talked a lot about over the years is brand values and how important these should be on your website and your brand and everything else. But it's not something we've done a huge amount ourselves until about a year and a half ago. So we invested a lot of time into defining our own brand values, and being friendly is one of them. And that's actually, I think, part of the reason we've grown our team so much in this last year is people have sort of connected with our values. And I think that's one of the reasons we're lucky enough to have Vanilla with us. So
yeah, no, that's right. No, I think I obviously knew Robin a little while back, but you've done a really good job in communicating those brand values, because they did really align with myself. And so when we started having a conversation about me joining 22 Group, it just felt like it was such a great fit. And even to the point where we've carried on using those really strongly in everything that we do, both internally and externally. And we've expanded the team phenomenally the last year. Funnily enough, all the people followed me after have joined in lockdown, as I did, which is crazy. But so we've not actually, there's a lot of people there that we still need to meet face to face, which is unreal. But yeah, absolutely, they've helped in kind of recruitment, everything. So for sure, brand values and what you stand for is very, very important.
But how prevalent do you think it is in the estate agency industry itself? Do you find many agents are, I was going to say, on the ball, or do you have that level of focus that they want to be dealing with companies that have that same level of brand values? How common do you think it is?
I'll go for that one. No, I think that they need a little bit of helping hand to get to the bottom of what their values are, because we ask them all the time. So we have typically we'll have an initial strategy session with an estate agent, and we'll talk about what are your brand values, and they go, oh, and they normally stumble and they go, well, that doesn't start well. That means we probably don't even know what they are. But all of them will always have them. It just takes, perhaps it takes an outsider to look in to actually get to the point of getting them up to the front, and also documenting it, and documenting something like your values as part of a sort of tone of voice, and we call a brand positioning statement, is hugely beneficial, because once you have it documented, everyone gets quite excited by it. They all know what they stand for, and you can streamline everything that go on from there. So your branding, your website, your marketing, you've got something to fall back on. So they do often need a bit of help, but there's always something there. And as Robin said, it often lies in the story. How did you start? And let's really get to the bottom of where are you unique? What are your unique selling points? And what do you stand for? Once you have that documented, you're on a really good path.
Excellent. Thank you. That's really helpful.
And then, so actually, this moves me on to one of our favourite clients. We've been working with them for around sort of 6 years, almost. They were one of the first clients after you move, and is Mayors down in Poundbury. So I'm really good friends with Mark and Claire, and we actually built their brand around that. I was just going to say then is that we've got two animal-based brands, so I don't want to be known as the person who only creates animal-based brands, but there was just a complete coincidence. It wasn't deliberate. I didn't push him in that direction. We showed a number of different routes for Mayors, and he liked the animals. So, but it has worked really well for him. It's a very sort of different style of illustration, but whereas you move, sheep is the whole theme. With Mayors, the animals represent the brand values, and it's been so successful for them. And
works really well, doesn't it?
And I think that's gone really well for him. And I think he had just one head office, I think, at the time, and now he's got 8 or 9 franchisees, and that's going really well for him. And he's looking to sort of take that national. And we had a bit of a brand refresh around a year and a half ago. It's all around sort of maturing the brand. Toning back some of the bright colours And we did discuss, and he brought up, he said, Robin, do you think we should actually move on from the animals now? And I said to him, look, Mark, this has worked so well for you. This is your brand. This is part of your story. This is, these are, these are your brand values. And you've got to remember, Mark, that up in other parts of the country, people won't have seen this brand. And so it's going to have the same impact on them as it did with the kids who were taking pictures of for sale boards around Poundbury, when it first came up around there. So the Proudly Reliable with the pug, and having the for sale boards and having the different animals on the for sale boards has worked really well for them. So you get to choose which animal you want. And there has been that story of kids taking pictures of the different animals and doing top trumps with it at school. So it's such a simple concept, but it's worked really well for them.
Looks really good. Looks really good.
Okay, so 92% of consumers trust referrals from people they know. So I can really believe this one. I don't know how, once again, they came up with it, but I think, those Google reviews and Trustpilot reviews and FIFO reviews, these are all great. And I think, what we're finding actually more and more, I mean, I'm a big believer in all of those, is that actually, because Google's such a well-known brand, from the research that we're doing, that people tend to believe Google. I don't know why they do, but I suppose it's because it is such a big brand. But whoever you use for your platforms, they're all brilliant. You need to make the most of them. And I think just an example, in those early days, that was one of the things that YouMove did phenomenally well, was really spend a lot of time and investment in terms of building up their Trustpilot reviews. So they were able to say the UK's #1 rated agent by customers, because on Trustpilot, they had more 5-star ratings than any other agent in the country. And
it's a very clever way, isn't it, of really focusing on what's important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those key ingredients, I think, in terms of that sort of phenomenal growth in those early days. And I mean, I'll start this one off when we were working with Parker's Property Franchise Group, and part of the brief there was, they were getting Purple Bricks, spending a lot of time in Reading, and they were sort of shipping in agents from outside Reading to be local experts. And whereas the actual franchisees at Parker's, they grew up in the area, the kids went to the local schools, and they supported the local schools. And so this was one of the branch owners' kids in the football kits. There's a bit of a double whammy there. So you've got, obviously, we know the local schools because our kids go to them, but also we're supporting them as well. And it's all about the sort of local presence and trust. Anything to add to that, Pamela, in terms?
No, I think that's strong. I think we'll go on and talk a bit about strong local presence, why that's important later on. But yeah.
Cool. And then, okay, consistency. It's one of those boring ones. It's one of those boring ones that, oh no, my branding agency is talking about consistency. And I want to go off and do this, and I want to do that, and they're just trying to keep me on the straight and narrow. I mean, I know sometimes it can come across as a bit boring, but brands that are consistently presented are 4 times more likely to be trusted.
But they can't be surprised by that, can they, Robin, as well? Because considering how many times it takes to ask somebody to do things like prospecting calls and everything else, there is, there's a famous phrase, not famous enough for me to remember who said it, but it's that point, just as you think that you're starting to really piss people off and annoy them, is actually the first moment they're starting to hear from you.
Yeah. No,
that always makes sense, because we hear about people time and time again that fall down this route. Great.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think in terms of consistency, this is one of my favourite sort of branding projects over the years, particularly in the property sector with White Gates. I think had around sort of 45 branches, predominantly sort of up north. And at some stage they'd lost the White Gate. They were synonymous, really famous for their White Gate adverts, and they were the first to do no sale, no fee. I think in the late 70s, and they had the first to do TV advertising. But at some stage, the White Gate disappeared. So I was very privileged with the challenge of reinvigorating the brand and coming up with a new White Gate. And what was so fun about this was we actually asked all the franchisees to vote on which was their sort of favourite gate, and we picked this one that was sort of doubles up as a W there, so you got a W and a gate. And what was so nice about that is they all got on board, and they all felt like they were part of it, and they embraced the brand. And what's so good about that is if you've got your staff and your team I'm really into your brand, is they become your best disciples, and that helps with trust as well.
Of course, because there's so many employees at corporates that just feel no connection, aren't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's and that's the thing is you know, even if you have however many branches you've got, you've still got to make it feel like it's local. You still got to make it feel like it's familiar, and that's what we did with these guys. We did these sort of stunning illustrations from, actually, I've forgotten his name now, but a really good illustrator sort of based in Stockport, and he does these really sort of intricate illustrations. And we got each of the branches to pick their favourite building in their town. So quite often it was the town halls, and you've got these absolutely sort of stunning northern town halls, Victorian town halls, and we did sort of Leeds, and we did Barnsley, and we did Liverpool, the Liver building, which I know you know very well, and so each of them, even though you've got this big brand, they all feel like it feels local. It feels part of them. They were you know, they were part of sort of choosing the logo, the boards, but also the building, and so it feels local, even though it's a big 45 branch brand.
Yeah.
But it's all consistent. That's the thing, as you can see that it's all really consistent. And we're doing a sort of similar thing with some campaigns with Nickel & Co. All sort of, whatever we do with him, it's really targeted. And this is what Penilla's brought so much to the table in terms of, you know, her experience with hunters and really sort of targeted marketing campaigns. But and we're going really granular with the stuff we're doing with Matt and Nickel & Co. at the moment in terms of his campaigns. So whatever we do, whether it's his original launch campaign, whether it's a Christmas campaign, and we've got some examples Penilla's going to go through a bit later of some really targeted campaigns. But it's all about consistency.
Absolutely fantastic. Guys, brilliant, absolutely great. I'd love to have a panel with some of your clients on next. Certainly you've got some characters there, and we need to have them on this show. So let's think of a couple of themes and let's get them on the next time, eh?
Amazing.
Thank you very much for your time here today. Again, thanks very much, and best luck going forwards.
Thanks.
Yes, Simon. Thanks a lot, mate.
Bye. Bye.